Kick her off.
Alrighty. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wine Wednesday with your two favorite hosts, Dom and myself. Your third favorite host, Huddy, is sleeping in Thailand. Normally, he would be up right now, but he, along with I think everyone else, got caught up watching the madness that is these low float China sympathy plays. And so I think he was chatting in the room in after hours when he should be asleep. So he will be sleeping during this instead. But I don't blame him. I would be too. I would be dead asleep if I was on 3 hours of sleep. Anyways, it's just me and Dom today. We're gonna rock and roll, and I have been here in this desk for 11 hours. It will be coming up on 12 when we end Wine Wednesday. So I've had a full day chained here. Didn't expect it. Wanted to go to the gym after the close. I ended up not doing that because I ended up trading holo and making some money. So that was good. Other than that,
Dude, that
guys,
West
it
Coast
was
kind of sucks for days like I can't imagine the pandemic when you put in like a 10 or 12-hour day and then you still have like 4 or 5 more hours left in your day before it's even okay to go to sleep.
yeah. I there were many days in the pandemic where I didn't eat until 1 o'clock because that's just when the market closed. So I could just actually stop looking at the screen and eat something. And then but yeah, there was after hours. I don't really remember. I remember the pandemic for me being a lot of OTC based, you know, at
Yeah,
least towards the end. So it was like when the market was closed, I at least could breathe. Um, but yeah, there were a lot of days where I felt like I feel right now, which is exhausted. Just a long day of looking at something uh, for sometimes a lot of payout, sometimes not. Today was worth it. Today I don't regret staying here, seeing how this all played out. And it's honestly not done yet. There's tomorrow and there's Friday. Who knows how these will end up? But a lot of opportunity in general, but also a lot of risk. I'm sure there were some plenty of people today who did not get out so well on HOLO. Very similar to how we didn't get out so well on top, coming up on a year ago, which it honestly seems like, I don't know, it seems like to me way more than a year ago. But
it does feel like a long time ago.
yeah, but it's all
Wow,
good.
Holo went to 50.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
pretty crazy. For those who don't know, we're in the Clover room. I ended up longing it at like 17 and a half. Sold some at 25, then downsized at 20 on the crack when I thought I was going to die, and then held 500 shares all the way up to 50. I sold 100 shares at 50, and then I just dumped my other 400 shares at 33 about 15 minutes ago before the stream started, just because it's too weak at this point now. I don't think it comes back. Maybe tomorrow it does. Like maybe we see a further run tomorrow. Maybe we don't. But when we started breaking down below the mid 30s, I thought to myself, you know what, this isn't what it once was. So made some money there. That was
What it
nice.
once was.
Yeah, what it once was an hour ago.
God, it's just annoying that after that move from 2 to 50 that we didn't get any real run out of it.
I know, right? This yeah.
That's the thing, and that's why I think it's so funny. Um, from from a moderator and chat room's perspective now, going from being a student in one many years ago, of like days like today, when I look at it with trying to be the most conservative, consistent trader I could possibly be right now, a day in which the edge is like negative 400% for most retail traders, long or short today on Holo, that the chat doesn't stop on a day like that. When you, as long as there's entertainment, if that's human, that's why there are moves like that. It's human psychology because they can't look away. People can't not want to trade it, and uh, yeah, it wasn't that exciting of a day for me. I put a lot of new stocks on my watch list. I have ideas going into tomorrow, but kind of what Kyle prefaced there, he started this morning. If you rewatch Good Morning Nasdaq this morning live trading, taking a decent sized loss on the morning action, and it kind of reminds you of top in that way, where you look at your candles, your little triangles from this morning on that trade, and you look at where the price went, and
I can't even see it.
just how many other people who are either watching this or people in the rooms right now or offices or big funds or whatever are just not having the greatest of days because of risk management. But yeah, I do want to preface anything we talk about with Holo today is that it's not an A plus pattern for me. And I'll always be the Debbie Downer for this because this is the type of stuff I remember seeing Dries back in what 2016 go from like 5 to 100, and that didn't even do it like this where it happens all in one day, which has become more of the norm over the last 5 years, where we've seen 0 to 100 real quick, 0 to 500 even quicker.
Right.
Um, Back then it took a lot longer for these moves. But I just realized watching them is like, and I asked this in the room, I'm like, be realistic with yourself. For those of you, Fu Randy says best trade on Holo this morning, buying around four. Like when you're buying a four, best case is six. When you're buying at six, best case is eight. When you're buying at 11, best case is 15. And if you always hold out for the home run, let's say you did today at $5, $8, $11, you're probably still in because 50 doesn't seem like that big of a home run if you're shooting for the one in a lifetime type of play. But the more often you do that than not, you're gonna lose, and you're probably gonna lose more in the long run doing that. So in terms of actual system trading, I think if you pick your spots, like Kyle, I don't think got long till he really felt like a certain situation was happening in after hours.
Right.
And again, I think that's a privilege play because his play money size is enough to make five figures. Whereas if you are actually trading this with $10, 10 shares, 50 shares, just because you don't want to risk any real money and you're scared. I don't think you're learning anything from that. I really do think that's more casino based. So Oliver says got in at 4, got out at 30. That is diamond hands.
Wow.
But I guess it never truly gave you. If you were one of those people who like needs like a new lower low to uh cut
Right.
and for it to give you a reason, it never truly gave you a reason. Um, he says crowded micro floats usually do that. I think that's a very generalized saying right there that they normally do this or usually do this. Once again, that doesn't normally happen in all shorts. It wouldn't happen once every 6 months like it does. Um, but yeah, it was a China play. Crazy move. We'll see if this is all there is for it or if there's more shenanigans. We heard a lot of reference to TOP. And Top, I think, by this time had settled down and then did it the next morning gap back up into those levels.
No, top closed in after hours up like at like 2 something. It had hit 250 with like 10 minutes left into the after hours close. And then I think it
It didn't
gapped.
hit. I thought it hit 300 that night.
Maybe. I think it was 250 because I thought it double topped at 250, like 250 after hours, and then hit 250 the next day in regular trading hours, and then it went back down to 100, and then dumped like a week later or something like that. But yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah, I would also wouldn't be too quick to say, okay, the squeeze has happened. Let's short risking 50, and that could work, but I'm
right.
not going to give any advice. But I will let the dust settle just a little bit longer on this because at this point there's $28 of range, and there'll be a play I think down the road no matter what, unless it gets taken from us overnight and opens at 4 or something.
Right, right. And yeah, I agree with what Dom is saying. I even said it in the chat when I longed. I'm like, this is a lotto play for me. Like I am buying this with the idea that like I'm riding it to as long as I can. Because again, in theory, it's like why didn't I sell it all at 50 when it touched 50? Because I have size for the case that it goes to 100, to 150, to 200. And again, maybe it still does. And then I'm like, oh, that's why I have a lotto play and I sold it at 33. But like that's kind of the point. It's kind of funny money, even though it is real size, or real money, I should say. It's funny money for me in the sense that I'm okay with whatever outcome happens. Like the problem is with even long in this. I mean, they could T12 halt, right? When you see something up this much. I mean, Dries did it. That was kind of the last. I guess. Well, there was also those like sketchy D-SPACs earlier last year. I guess that also did it, but But there is a risk. And so I kind of bought knowing that, like, you know what, if the worst case scenario is 0, I'm okay buying this with the idea that if this is a black swan move, this goes to 50 to 100, 150, whatever. Now, so far it's only 50, and I'm on flat. I've exited my position. And again, like Dom said, like I can kind of do this at this stage in the game. For anyone who's a beginner, it's a lot riskier as a beginner because if something were to happen, like let's say this did T12 halt and a beginner was long and hadn't sold yet, that's going to be way more detrimental to someone who's just starting than to someone like me. Someone like me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to laugh. Like someone like me, I'm going to laugh about it. Like, oh, they T12'd it. Like, I'm so dumb. Haha. And then the next day be totally fine. Right. So yeah, there's that because
I just think there's more ways to learn horrible lessons on days like today than there are. Just like all the days that you get rewarded for fighting a stock short. Let's say you fought this one all day, right? You Kyle originally shorted in the threes, right? He adds to it in the fives. He adds to it in the tens. He adds to it in the 11s. And instead of going from 11 to 20 in the last 10 minutes a day, bad news comes out. It's a fake company, whatever it is, and it downholds from 11 and opens at $1. That's a horrible lesson, right? You shorted,
right,
fought all day. You were rewarded with a 80% win. In this case, I think I think there's more. That's more of a getting lucky, and 11 to 50, I think is also for in some ways a little lucky. It's just it's hard to look at these one-offs. They're called black swans for a reason.
right.
Um, and to really say this is how I'm going to trade all black swans, because by the time a black swan is a black swan, you don't know that it's a black swan. And really, until it goes to 50, I don't even think it's a black swan. If it stops at 28, is this a black swan, Kyle? I don't think so.
I think someone I think it was Short Bear the other day, or not the other day, after what ticker ran huge? TPST, right? I think after TPST ran, he put out a tweet saying there's only been so many tickers that have ran thousands of percent in a day, right? You could have a 1,000, 2,000% run over a week, 2 weeks, a month, but to do it in a day, there's only I wish I would find this tweet, but I know it's too far away for me to start looking right now. I think there's only been like 4 or 5 in the last 10 or 20 years. Not 20, but maybe I think in the last 10 years he said something like that. So to get 4 to do say 2,000%, and we just got one. I mean, it's up 2,000% right now at 32, and it was at 50, which is again, it was probably up closer to 3 or 4,000% up there.
But that's kind of what I'm saying.
Know,
So, okay, even at 20 to 28, it's black swan material.
right.
That's like that makes you feel confident in buying for it to turn more into a black swan. Like it's by the time they are as crazy as they are, they're already crazy. And so like someone wrote, why short these stocks instead of going long, less stress. When you say words like these stocks, I don't think you quite understand that these stocks happen all the time and they don't do this. Like Kyle could probably show you 10 ex China pumps that since their destruction day have tried to gap up and have not mustered up a 10% move after they gap up and they just fail. Um, that's why I hate on days like today, because everyone gets excited and they think like they should be trading it from $4 long all the way to 50. And I think the longer you trade, the more you feel like if you do catch a piece, it's more like Kyle, which is you're 600% late for the next 100%. And it's not something that's predictable. Even if it's predictable, if I said I think this can go crazy today, but my price target was 60 instead of 50, I'm still probably selling on the backside. Like it's not predictable in that way.
Right. And it's really all about how a trader wants to go about it. Because did I long it and trade it and make some money? Yes. Have I also done that with TOP and lost 6 figures? Yes. And on top of that, it's just whether, because you got to, like, what I think what Tom's trying to get to as well is just we see these runners and think, because the opportunity was so big, because the black swan move was so intense and massive, the dopamine part of our brains go to, wow, what happens if I was part of that? Like if I bought at 4 and sold it at 40, like I make 1,000% in a day. Like how would that change my trading career? And if you just look at, and if your goal is, say long-term profitability or to be a millionaire from trading, or whatever your goal is monetary speaking, there's very few, and then this is why I call it a lotto trade. There's like a lottery winner amount of people who have, quote unquote, made it in trading from one big black swan like this, right? It's 99.99999% of us successful traders is because they've just had a consistent setup they've played over and over and again. So don't get me wrong, today like days are fun. I mean, I've been here for 12 hours and this is what I live for. It's like it's fun watching these things. But if you're a beginner and you nailed it, right, and you made a lot of money today, awesome. If you're a beginner and you lost a lot of money, I'm sorry. If you're a beginner and missed it completely and you feel bad, don't. It's just not one of those things that's going to be the reason why you are in this game forever, but it could be the reason why you are never going to come back from this game or back into this game if you get like Dom said, if you're the add short seller kind of idea, and then you're getting bought in and margin called at $50 and now you've lost everything. So
Well, I mean, let's put it into perspective. Like Kyle, how many trades have you ever had over $100,000?
um, let's tell you. We have one, two, three, four, five, six.
6 out of like 5 million
How many
in
like,
profits?
out of? Oh yeah, out of 4.7. Yeah.
And how are any of those on Lotto longs?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like just checking,
I
just
just
making
want
sure.
just want just to say like it's hard to even say it because I don't want to come across like the Debbie Downer and everyone and Oliver says I think it was all about patterns, not a black swan. Um, yeah, I don't know what pattern this is in terms of technicals. Maybe there's more behind the scenes. Fu Randy says I wouldn't say these plays are predictable. You could say there are signs. There are signs, but there's not enough signs for you to gain the conviction to take the trade with size on a risk level and have a reasonable suspicion as where to sell. Whereas, if you're buying DWAC 2 weeks ago over the $30 breakout, based off of the history of that one's runs, you can put together a thesis for why it should go to 40 or 50. Like there's enough behavioral things to go off of. With this one on a day one runner, what I'm saying is at 1,000% it's a black swan. At 1,500% it's a black swan. At 2,000, at what point is your conviction level that that's where it could have gone to? Once it gets crazy, is what I'm saying. It gets crazy, which means like once it starts hitting 15 to 20, that's like where the reasonable person's probably selling a real position out of lotto play. And if you can do all that while taking big size, or at least full size, I mean, then it's not like a repeat. Then I just don't, it doesn't bother me. It used to bother me when I'd miss plays like this because everyone looks at it and they do what Kyle said. They look at it and go, wow, this could have tripled my account. Wow, I could have got out of PDT. Wow, I could have changed everything in my life. But I encourage you to ask yourself in the moment at any point today, did you ever get the urge to put 25% of your account on it or take full risk times two or that you felt so confident it was going everyone's confident that it was going 50 until when it's at 4 or when it's at 8. And then they're like, "Wow, I think this could go to 10. That would be nuts." Go back in the chat and look all day today. It was it's just I don't like hearing all the mumbo jumbo about it. Someone said that the best thing that comes out of these is sympathies. I would agree. You had what HKIT, which went off in after hours, and there were signs if you were out looking today for stocks that were kind of in this realm that were doing increased volume, and then kind of drifted towards highs into the close. HKIT was one. MLGO sitting at the highs right now. Was there another one?
WIMI.
Wimmy?
Yeah. Wimmy. That went up a little bit. More so than
Yeah,
MLGO,
nice.
but or about the
Yeah,
same now in terms of where they're
yeah,
at.
I think that is where maybe you gain your conviction. You go, this one is a black swan. It is rare that black swans don't have little ducklings with them.
Right.
Find the ducklings, and the ducklings might go 100% off of the 2,000% move. I can get on board with that.
Yeah, totally. I like that a lot. Um, there's something I was gonna say, and I forgot what it was when you said it.
You're basically just gonna say, "Oh, I agree with everything Dom says always."
Um, well, I understand what the comments in the chat where they're saying, there are signs and you could formulate a pattern here, but it's not a pattern. It's not the black swan pattern. It's just enough indicators to know. Like perfect example this morning when I was saying like I don't want to touch this short for the rest of the day. Did I have enough conviction along it? No. But I know damn well there was too many indicators to be like this is a off limit short now. Like I don't even want to
But
think about
why,
shorting it.
why, Kyle, does your brain do that? You said there was enough going wrong that I don't want to trade this again. And we talked about it in the pre-market, right? The history of it. It's a Chinese play.
Right.
We already were relating it to MLGO, I think, in the pre-market, which if you go back and look in December, went on a crazy run, gapped up the next day, then liquidated the F out of them. But why does your brain not immediately go long? Because not every time it's not a short does it equal a long. Because if you did that 100% of the time you'd be an unprofitable trader.
Right. And that's what I was going to get to, which is there's it gives the facade that catching these black swan moves are more likely simply because a lot of them have happened from these liquidation China scammy tickers. But right, amongst the broad collection of all of them, buying all of them in the hopes of catching these black spot moves, yeah, you would have caught Top, you would have caught Holo, you would have caught ZJYL. And yeah, you probably would have made a lot of money, but you also would have lost a lot in all of them that practically
Or
went to
what
zero.
would end up happening is because we're humans and we have this recency bias that thinks everything goes from 5 to 50, you would eventually go, okay, 95% of them don't turn into black swans. I'm going to turn them into real trades. So I'm going to buy it at 4 when Kyle's covering a short and sell it at 550. And then all of a sudden you're in all the black swans, but you're taking pieces of the move, which means it will never become the lottery home run that we're thinking they all are.
Right. You'll never catch part of it. You're going to chase the swan without ever being a part of it. So, and that's that. I mean, that concept though goes even into like the idea of how anyone creates massive gains, and I don't mean trading wise. I mean whether it's like in just anything that's gone up a ton, Tesla, Nvidia, Bitcoin, or even the S&P 500 over 4 or 5 decades, right? There's an aspect to like the only way anyone ever catches an insane, large, massive gain. There's the aspect of like, I'm just never gonna sell, right? Because if you had any inkling or even any thought that there was a price or an area where you wanted to get out, you would have gotten out before it's up as where it is now, kind of idea. Perfect example is what the movie Dumb Money just came out, right? With Deep or Roy and Kitty and Deep Effing Value, where
Is that the same person?
yeah.
That's his name on Reddit. Oh.
Yeah. And so he was up so much money on GME because he had, again, a lot of conviction. He was right on from the start, and then was able to conjure up, or not just him, but just the whole market was conjuring up this huge squeeze. And he made he was over up like 30 or 50 million at the top of GME. And it's like he got there because he had the idea that he's never going to sell. I think eventually he did, right? But like if you had the idea that you were going to sell at any life-changing amount of money, who's to say he wouldn't have sold at 5 million, 10 million, 3 million, right? To hold to certain levels of that kind of increase in change in your wealth, like the individual's wealth who's holding, there's almost that aspect of like you don't even think selling is an option to some degree, because to even hold that long and not let greed take over or wanting to have the money in your life take over, it's a different thought process. And that was the problem with a lot of people who also then ended up buying GME like alongside that squeeze, because there was never an exit strategy. Right? Everyone was always hoping for higher and more and bigger squeezes and bigger blowups of the hedge funds. That there's a lot of people who, and unfortunately, were up a ton, but lost a lot because there was never an exit strategy kind of idea. So I don't know where I'm kind of rambling on.
That's kind of what I'm saying though about it not being consistent or a strategy, because it's a one-off. And if you're a good enough trader to capitalize on one-offs, then that's one thing. But what I'm speaking to is the general population of retail traders who are trying to learn how to be consistently profitable. And that type of strategy doesn't work. And even if it does work, what you're saying is it cannot work. Because if you get yourself into that mindset, which I did a lot of in 2022, which was the only way to make a 150K trade is to be up 100K at first. Then I have to get to 110 and then 120, and I have to just keep holding and hope that I get to that number. But then if I get to that number, I'm gonna be mad if it goes to 200K and I sold at 150K. If there's no real exit strategy and it's not predictable, and you have the conviction and the discipline to do it, a lot of things have to come together for a trade like Holo to be your one in a lifetime trade. And so I would just say, don't believe that it should be.
Yeah, well said. That's a perfect ending right there to that statement. We didn't even go where we were drinking, but I'll just share it because I've already tried it and it is awful. But you would like it, Dom. Black cherry White Claw? Maybe because
I've had it. It comes in like a weird 4-pack.
Yeah, but
it's all right. That's not black cherry. Isn't that blackberry?
Sorry, blackberry. I like black cherry
There you
better.
go.
Black cherry
Black
is my
cherry is the
favorite.
more red colored, red purple.
Right.
That's purple purple.
Yeah, this one's just subpar, you know?
Just not. Was that from the New Year's Year party in
Yes,
2022?
it's a little bit old, you know, but they stay pretty good for a while.
I
But it's
have
just
a
not great.
blackberry as well. I just got done with a long run before we got on, and I wanted to have a glass of wine because last week I was like, I really want one, but I was like, protein powder and fruit sounds a lot better right now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna puke if I have alcohol after I just worked out. How far did you run?
5 miles.
Nice. I told
I've been
myself I was gonna run today, but
trying to get back in shape. I was trying to I did a whole thing to start the new year, and I haven't in the last like 8 years I haven't really had any goals for myself besides trading stuff,
hmm
and I'm obviously taking trading more serious now. But I was like I had all these goals for myself for life because I want to get back to a more balanced lifestyle, more where I'm like, what can I do that I can work out every day and eat better all year? And so I was like going through some numbers I want to hit for like running and working out. And I was like trying to go off of like my records. And then I was like, okay, what's my best mile time? And I'm like, and I was a college soccer player. Um, and my best mile time is like 5:12. And I'm like,
wow.
I'll never like I ran a mile like last month and it was like 8. And I'm like, dude, I physically don't think in a year I can get down to 5. And then I'm like, what's my best 2 mile time? And it was like 12 minutes and 30 seconds. And I failed the fitness test. That's how crazy the fitness test was. That was a
Wow.
fail. I don't know if all that's 2 6-minute miles. How am I ever? I'm like, how can I get to 14 minutes? Like our younger selves, I was a lot skinnier, but we're old and it's like, how do you ever hit those goals again? I'm gonna have to work out so hard.
Well, what was
But
your
so I got numbers I'm trying to work towards.
yeah? Well, what was your average mile time for the 5 miles today?
Oh, it was a really slow mile. I did a warm up and a cool down and then
Oh, gosh, so
some
it's yeah,
workouts and stuff in between. I usually do some sort of circuit as well where I mixed in with like other activities that kind of CrossFitty, but not lifting a ton of weight.
right.
I got a lot of injuries that I'm working through,
Because I have
but
a
it's like it'd be like a 9 minute probably.
got it. Because I have a buddy who also played soccer in college, and he ran a half marathon with me, which was the first half marathon I ran. I think he's done one before, but he hadn't done one in a while, and this was back in 2022. So he had ran one with me, which was my first, but I think his
A half marathon?
half marathon, and he trained before, but because he was so well conditioned from high or college soccer, like there was no amount of training I could ever do to catch up to where he was running. I think he ended up running the half marathon at with like a 7 minute pace or like a 6:50 minute pace, like just something insane. And I had I think I had like an 8:30 pace.
That's good though.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. But I also hurt my foot, and then I ran another one 6 months later, whatever, and averaged 7:55. So I was way happier with that one. But I'm doing again, like you said, doing the math in my head of like how fast can you run at what pace and improve. And I'm like, how do you like? You have to go something through that like college soccer or track and field to where it's like you just train your body at such a high level that like it can quickly maybe come back to that or just stay at that level. If my buddy's always kind of worked out and stayed somewhat in shape. He hasn't let it just completely fall off a cliff, but he certainly hasn't been running and training for half marathon from college to the half marathon himself.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know, just impressive stuff how the body, can
Yeah,
do
you'd
what it
almost
does.
have to become an athlete, like treat it like it's a sport to
Right.
like get back to those times. Like back in those days, I was running, I mean, plus soccer,
Right.
probably
Actually
3 to 6 miles a day, plus the sport. And it's
right.
like you can't really make that up just being like, okay, here's an hour of activity. And you're just never going to get back to that.
Right. I mean, speaking of half marathons, Kelly and I are running one in May. So
Where?
in Orange County.
Cali?
Yep. But so yeah, it's about 12 weeks away, which is usually I do a 12-week little program. So and I haven't ran one since
What do you,
2022.
how do you train for it?
I got to
Do you
look
just
at the
slowly work up your mileage? And
yeah, I got to look at the one I put together, but it was like run 3 times a week, but then every Sunday is the long mile. So like the week one is like run 2 miles, run 4 miles, and then Sundays like run 5. And then like every Sunday it's 1 more mile. So like run 6, then run 7. So like I think the week before the half marathon it has me running 12. although like it's kind of a intense. Like I usually, I mean, once I get to the 8, 9, 10 range, my body gets pretty sore the next day. So I think I ended up doing the 12-mile run. At least last time when I'm thinking about it, I did the 12-mile run 2 weeks before, and then I did like the last Sunday before the actual marathon. I did like 7 or 8, where it's like it's long enough, but I'm not like just destroying my body up till the actual
Yeah.
13. Um,
I remember
but
when Emilio used to run a bunch of
yeah, he's a big runner.
marathons, and he said like the last week before you do it, or within the last few weeks of training, you have to do a run where you run more than a marathon or some crazy thing like
Right.
that.
If you really want to crush it and make
And I'm
practice
just
harder than the
like,
game.
dude, and I know where he was running on our indoor track at our gym, and oh, that the idea of running a marathon on that track gives me a slight hints of depression.
Almost I did it one time where I had to run 11 miles and I didn't want to run 11 miles like out and about. So I decided I was just going to run most of it around my high school track. And I was like, "Oh yeah, so like what, 11 miles, 44 laps, like I could do it." And by lap like 20 or 25, I was like I felt like I was going insane. I was like, "I need to leave." I can't keep running in circles. And
And
so I
you
ended up
probably
running
lose
around the
count.
neighborhood. What's up?
You probably lose count.
Yeah, I mean, well, I luckily, I think I honestly stopped the counting because I just was looking at my phone in terms of my distance. But I was like, I can't go in another circle. I need to leave. So
Oh, running is one of those things that it really tests like your mental discipline because you don't want to do it. Doesn't matter. I feel like how good you are at it. Like once you get to like mile two, it's like you just don't want to do it. It's not fun.
right,
Like
right.
just to be like, oh, I still have another 40 minutes of running left.
I've
That is
never,
me driving a 40-minute drive.
I've never. I know a lot of people have it, but I've never had the like runner's high feel. I've
I
never
definitely
been able
have
to.
that, but when it's over, like
Got
when
it.
you're done running and you feel accomplished,
Yeah, I just
like
never
what?
had it
Yeah,
for
I don't
some
know.
odd reason.
If there's
I
a really
don't
good
feel.
song, like if Miley Cyrus is hitting pretty hard or something, it's like The Climb or something, and you're like really into it. But you have to time that, right? Because you get a burst of momentum off of that. So you don't want to use that halfway through where you're just like, earlier during this run, there was a great High School Musical song I haven't heard in a while, and
High School
I was just
Musical.
like, oh my God, we still got 10 minutes. You wasted up a lot of lung power by doing the hand motions and stuff. But it's all about timing with the music. David Goggins says you're a P word if you listen to music while you run.
That's funny.
All
Anyways,
right,
yeah, I feel like
we
we lost track in
digress.
chat. Do you still have a spot where you were?
Yeah. A lot of retracted messages. Someone asked about S&P futures in the 5,000s. Do you know what that means?
I'm guessing that means the SPY is higher in after hours, uptrending.
Overall market?
I mean, SPY is just under 500. It is going higher. We did make new highs today. I'm guessing the QQQ did the
Congrats,
same.
all you IRA holders.
Yeah, congrats you long-term investors.
All
I'm
right.
sure everything's going higher with Nvidia. I believe Nvidia, yeah, Nvidia's at all-time highs, pushing. Pretty impressive. Pretty
Fannie
crazy.
Mae single-handedly carrying the OTC market. What did that do today? Wasn't that the one breaking down
Fannie
today?
Mae.
That's annoying.
Fannie Mae
Stop
still at
watching
120.
it.
Nothing
Yeah.
crazy.
We'll see in like a month where it's at.
Yeah.
Furani says it's funny because I technically had my biggest day today because I'm starting to size up this week finally. But in terms of R, it's same trade. So technically I could take 2 to 3 losses and would give back. I'm confused. Oh, it's a bigger number. Oh wait, I need to reread if you know what it says.
Where's wouldn't say
I'm
these
starting to
places.
size up.
Let me see.
Oh, the biggest trade because they sized up. So it's like, oh, I risk 100 a trade to make 500, but now I started risking 300 a trade and I made 1,500, but I'm risking more now. So, but that's good.
Yeah, that's great,
As
Franny.
long as you're ready to be sizing up and you feel good about it. Seems like that trade went well. Mash for Fun says we're old, funny from my perspective. I'm guessing they're a lot younger.
Well, we're a lot younger and he's a lot older.
I'm kidding, it's my dad.
Oh, that's Mash. Oh yeah. Usually I thought it was Don Mash, but yeah, yeah, Mash for
Ugh.
fun.
Hi, Kyle. Oh, I'm guessing it is. Hi, Kyle. I was curious how you caught the top of NRHI as it ran for weeks before immediately turning. Any advice on how to do that?
It makes it look lucky. because technically I didn't. If you look at, I don't know where you,
Preparation makes opportunity.
yeah, I don't know where you maybe saw if you were in the room or maybe you saw on Kinfo or wherever I posted it, but I had two brokers that were short and NRHI, and one of them got bought in to the point where there was no recovering. I was going to end up with a loss on it, and the other one I actually timed the top, which I think is what you're referring to, the trade you're seeing, because that's where I made most of my money. I made like 20 plus K on it. It honestly, there was no timing the top. It was just that I was checking for borrows every single day, and the day it hit in the 12s, 13s, and 14s, I had borrows. I had found some. I paid for some, shorted some, and then the next day it got or I guess in after hours that day it got the CE, which is the worst rating an OTC pump can get. Or any OTC, and so that usually that's 99% of the time that crushes that stock, 90% within a day, if not in a week or more or less. And so yeah, there's no how'd I know? I didn't. I thought it could have very well gone higher the next day, and I was prepared for that. I mean, that's kind of why how I do trade them and short them, where I'm willing to give them a swing mentality. So in terms of me timing the top, like I wasn't expecting to. I was fully prepared for this thing for it to see 15, 16 the next day. It just didn't. So
Very nice. You also have that LCCN, similar one that took a little dumpski into the close.
that is another one still going on. Yes, indubitably.
Um, Brother, DWAC, you got to be monitoring closely, no? Or you don't think it's ready. Shape looks awfully similar to the recent breakout, just different prices. I am starting to watch DWAC a lot closer, but I am kind of in a predicament mentally with it. Because I'm not sure I can avoid a breakout over 48 now, being so close to 50. And whereas before around 30 to 35, we're like 100% from the breakout, but now we're only like 20% away. But that wick looks so far away. So this is one of those situations, again, conviction wise, where I feel like I would struggle because if I had a great entry at 48, I would probably convince myself to hold for the 58 breakout, even though it's probably likely that that takes like a week and a half to develop after spiking to those areas. Um, I think you have a lot of people betting against this right now, which could make the move take a little longer. Um, or what we saw today is just a perfect market for something like DWAC to go to 100. But I am watching this one a lot closelier now with how little it pulled back. The one wick it did have yesterday, it held that 42 area that it broke out of. Um, I'm watching very closely. I need to come up with a plan on that. Um, but that 48 to 50 area is really intriguing, especially with how it did today, considering PHUN. I don't think PHUN did anything but gap down. Yeah, it's just but I never really wanted to play that one, but because of how many offerings it's done. But DUI pretty much held its own, and people kind of correlate them together. So the fact that it kind of absorbed that and continued to move on, yeah, I am watching very, very closely because those are the type of plays where I think you can make 10 times as much as you ever made on Holo, predictably. Um, Blue Cat Mary says 198% today on Holo Long. Feels awesome. It should
Sweet.
feel awesome. Congratulations.
Sweetness.
Congratulations. Everardo. Everardo. That's a dope name. Jacobo. Everardo Jacobo. You a soccer player? GRRR looks beautiful in the 15-minute candle frame. Do you like the idea of a breakout? I do like the idea of a breakout. I'm gonna need to talk to Huddy on this unless Kyle knows some answers. Off the dilution tracker because there
Mhm.
is some fishy looking stuff on this one, and
On
I don't
GRR.
prefer to get into fishy looking stuff.
So
Can't
G
can't say the technicals aren't good, but yeah, talk to me.
so GRR does have its fair share of dilution. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. I think they have some warrants or notes at 125, right? And then they have some more at like 150 or two. Some nice round numbers. They also have an ATM, but I've never used any of it. And I
Yep,
think the run started
it's a big
from
ATM.
yeah, big ATM, but the run started because they posted really good earnings and actually a profitable
Yeah,
quarter. I think they made a few million, and I think the quarter previously they actually lost like like multiple, like I think 80 million or something crazy. So to go from that to actually being profitable,
Well,
so
they're cash flow positive,
right,
4.47 million.
right. So huge, huge turnaround. So that to me was a big red flag as a short seller because, like, okay, yeah, there's all this dilution, but if they are cash flow positive, why on earth would they crush their stock price? Like, it doesn't make sense unless there's a big purchase
It's
that the
crazy
company
to
needs
hear
to
you
make.
say sentences like that because we're taught to be so cynical when bringing up these companies, but for you to say like, "Oh, this dilution was actually a red flag because of how profitable they were," and they don't want to crush their stock price. Like all we think about is
Right.
that every company just wants to hammer that thing to zero, reverse split it, and do it again.
Right.
But yeah, they had some warrants at 125. That's kind of the one that's I question more than the ATM.
Right. So because they're profitable, I don't really care what dilution they have. That's the big sign for me of like unless I did a deep dive, which I don't even do for any company, of like finding out if they need like a certain amount of money to purchase some product or to build some new facility. Like unless they need like something insane, like 50 million, to where their cash flow positive operations are not going to fund that project. Then yeah, they're going to use dilution. But like I'm not going to do that research and or care to try to find out. So with all that being said, I'm going to assume they're not going to use dilution and, you know, just keep an eye on it. Like if it clearly keeps and continually failing at certain levels, then it's like, okay. And then we know those levels are where the dilution's at, then we can assume they're using maybe some of it. But I'm going to assume they're going to use none of it if they're cash flow positive, which they've said they are. So that's why I have no interest in
Okay.
shorting it.
Well, yes, I'm watching it for Everardo. I am watching it as long as it's holding a dollar and we're kind of consolidating that area. It's kind of thicker, bigger float, so which is nice to see around a dollar because then you can still see those kind of 30 to 50 cent moves, but potentially with better risk reward. So I will be watching that one. Arturo, where's all these cool names coming from? Says bull market is back. Question mark, question mark, question mark. TBD. We don't know. Technically, we're in a bull market, but are we
Ye-
technically in a? I mean, we're
we
breaking all-time
are.
highs.
It's just a little bit different in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's different because it's not everywhere, right? Like the Spy and the QQQ and the Magnificent Seven and a few other names are at all-time highs. Bull market, great, hallelujah, awesome. But there's so many companies left behind that are still down 60, 70, 80, 90%. And again, maybe rightfully so. Maybe obviously they're not good companies. Doesn't mean just every company should be at
No, I
all-time
was even
highs.
just looking like Tesla. Tesla's so
Per-
far off its highs, and
Perfect
Tesla
example.
is
Yeah,
literally at what new lows on the year. Like, there are
right.
a lot of companies where would normally you look at like a Tesla and it's doing the same thing the Spy's doing, and it couldn't be more opposite.
Sorry. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And even if you look at like the small cap index, what is it? The small cap index is like is it IWM?
I
iShares.
think it is. I was just looking at my acorns, and I
Yeah,
think I
iShares
have
Russell
that in there.
2000. So
I saw that yesterday.
the Russell, if I'm looking at this chart here, yeah, the Russell's still, what is it, 20% off its highs, a little more, 25-ish. So, big caps, large caps, the SPY, the QQQ, great, amazing, fantastic. But, an index that would follow the small cap world, which is what we're kind of covering, has not done the same thing. So yes, bull market, but I don't think it's the same environment quite yet pre-COVID, if that makes sense. And it never will be.
That
Like
is
there's
a good one.
every
That's the only time of our whole career I feel like you could I truly everything felt bullish. Like 2017 is what I remember of like the Rolling Wolf getting cooking, where there was gappers running every day. You could buy them. Like there was multi-day runs, multiple of them every week. The overall market was making new highs. Like 2017 to me feels like exactly what like we're like 7 years into a bull run. Everything's cooking. We have OTCs on the horizon.
right.
Life is good.
Yeah, it just seemed a little more. I wouldn't say consistent, but just not a market where everyone's on edge of like, what's going to happen with the economy? What's going to happen with interest rates? And maybe that's just because I just wasn't paying attention at the time so much.
I
But
wonder how much of it is that because, and I said it, I think in like 2022, where once people got bored because like the market wasn't crazy with small caps in like 2020 and 2021, everyone started bringing up the SPY more. Like, what is the SPY doing today? When's the FOMC? Like, I don't remember ever seeing those words in
right,
2017, 18, 19. Like when people actually talked about them affecting their stocks, like in small cap land. And once I saw that, I'm like, how much of what I say is new or different is not that different. It's just ignorance of not knowing back then that it was doing anything.
right. Well, I will say it's probably a little bit of both. Mainly because yeah, if we actually cared about it, we certainly would put an effect on it because we would just we'd give it some weight in terms of how much we care. But I also think we wouldn't be caring as much in general because I think so many people care now because there's this idea that we're still battling inflation, right? And to some degree we are. And it's like the Fed's not going to lower interest rates. If he said, Powell said this multiple times, like he's not going to do it until they get inflation back to where they want it, you know. And so there's constantly this like Hawkeye view of like, are we gonna do it yet? Are we gonna lower rates? Like everyone's getting excited about later this year. Like, are we gonna lower rates later this year? Like finally gonna happen, you know? So it's like in a world where inflation's stable and under control, and there's no overlooming fear of any event, which I think 2016, 2017, 2018 kind of gave us. It was just this steady Eddie, you know, keep chugging along kind of market. So
Uh, yeah, I'm making Live Strong bracelets, fighting inflation. It's an everyday battle. Jonathan Lee says it seems like Mo Black Swans day two is a fade from memory. CXAI, ICCT, SGD, TPST, MLGO. All of those were great ones, and perhaps only top squeezed. Yeah, top was the only one I could think of off the top of my head, which I want to say it was like 4 market days before you had that move from 100 to 20, where it still had a little shenanigans, and then it was dump city.
mhm.
MLGO definitely was like gap up and then algo turn on. Um, so basically, I think the follow-up question is, do you dare short these? On the backside, I'm always very afraid these stocks will be on everyone's radar, crowded. That uphault risk is much larger. Well, the uphault risk now, what kind of move has to create an uphault? Is it based off the previous day?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And we closed at
remind me,
20 pretty much, or 18
20?
into today. Yeah.
I
So
don't know. It's kind of what Kyle was talking about this morning when you guys kept saying, why would you short something like this? The thesis is still there. I think that's what we kind of forgot. I don't know if you shorted MLGO, but I think you missed it, didn't you?
I traded a little bit, but I traded way super late. Like once I realized it was
Okay.
getting crushed, I shorted at like
Okay.
6 and
Yeah,
took it
yeah.
to like 4. Like it was
Um,
yeah.
but it's easy to forget once you see a move go crazy why the initial thesis doesn't go away. And that's what I was so upset about with TOP was I let the emotions of taking the big loss and fighting it for a day affect the fact that it was actually still a China pump. Shorts just got ran over to the point of where it was just multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. But they still had a job to do. And the job was to take that mother trucker to zero.
Yeah.
And uh for the most part, there is an agenda here. Uh, yeah, the way they're walking it down right now tells me it's either it's going to be a rude awakening by pre-market or that the liquidation's already started.
Yeah,
So we'll see in the morning.
Holo's definitely yeah. I mean, this is the last hour we've been talking here. It's just gone nothing but straight down in a nice perfectly diagonal line. So it's funny they've made it look simultaneously like MLGO but also like top. They've given it qualities of both. So, you know, I'm fully prepared to see any scenario come out tomorrow, whether they take it back down to 5 or they're gonna test it back to 50. You know, who knows? I think within the first hour it'll be pretty telling.
And
But
if I think if it's testing 50, like any giant gap up, I guess we're going to close right around actual red green. Um, I probably leave it alone. If it's I probably leave it alone no matter what. Y'all know me. Um, it'd have to be pretty obvious, like a top would have to be. I have to have a risk level other than 50. But if we're that strong that we're in the 50s or in the 40s in the morning, that's probably not for me. That's where you get the crazy moves and you end up fighting. Um, I almost prefer that. Make it really easy on me. Gap up to like 50 and squeeze out of the gate.
yeah. But to also answer Jonathan's question, like when I shorted TPST the next day. So yeah, most big grand black swans happen so quick, so soon that the next day usually is not a continuation, and right top is a very rare example of that. But yeah, it doesn't mean the next day can't be crowded or choppy. It just means it's not going to be up another 3,000% kind of idea. Is it possible? Sure. I'm sure eventually at one point we'll maybe see something like a black swan of all blacks. I mean, HKD was a good example. HKD was one that never really went 1,000% in one day, but went, what was it? I don't know, from 12 to 2,500 in a week. A little bit more insane that way. But again, none of us have a crystal ball, so we're just trying to see how it goes. But yes, in general, the few black swans that have gone are very short-lived. It's a day, two max. So
Yeah, it's when you see moves that happen that quick, like we're talking about multiple thousands of percents. When the squeezers have gotten squozen,
squeeze been squozing.
you got to ask yourself who's left to squeeze. Unless a new round of people come in to get squeezed, generally people learn their lesson. They either go smaller, they cut their loss. There's only so many games before the true purpose needs to be fulfilled. And yeah, so we'll see if that's tomorrow. Yeah, LAES, super, super annoying. Where's that now? This has just been the week for me. Like, did the volume ever increase? Just barely. This is just dumb. That's just stupid. Like, why put me in charge of setting up the patterns? I could get them set up in such a cute way. And
You gotta
said
be a
they want
market
them
maker.
bouncing right off the lows, right into breakout levels. Like, ew. Arturo says just focus on small cap gappers. I can't see a word because like there's emojis right there. We have gappers in every market. I don't know what that means.
Just focus on small cap gappers. We have gappers in every market. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, ARM will be a large cap gapper tomorrow, up 30%.
What is that, earnings or something?
Some news. I'm not sure, but I think they're in the semiconductor space. I know they were somewhat related to NVIDIA and all the other good stuff. So let that party continue.
Kyle, are you more short biased because of the high winning percentage?
No. I mean, I feel like this is a question of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Where in general, regardless whether I liked it or not for whatever reason, shorting generally is a higher win rate but lower risk reward strategy, at least in small caps. And longing is a higher risk to reward but lower win rate in small caps. So yes, personality wise, I do favor somewhat of a trade-off in knowing that I'm going to win a little bit more of the time if it means giving away some risk reward. Maybe that doesn't make me as profitable, but in terms of my own personality and what keeps me from being maybe overly emotional or not so tilted, I definitely enjoy winning over 50% of the time. If I start losing under less than a coin flip, I definitely will easily get a bit more frustrated. And so yeah, maybe I like shorting for those reasons, but I'm primarily a short seller in small cap space because the edge itself is high. And I don't just mean win rate, I mean like there's no other place in the stock market where you can get companies that are willing to dilute themselves like to the ground. It's borderline like questionable that it's even illegal, but it's the name of how in the game how the markets work, and if they do it correctly with putting in filings, raising capital, and then some firms get shares, and then the firm wants to sell shares. Like it's just how it works. And I guess that's up to the buyer to know those risks. But like, there's plenty of people who don't and still choose to be a source of liquidity for some of these companies, and the companies take it to the ground or into the ground. And so, why can't I join them and do in that selling if they're going to do it anyway? And a lot of small cap companies do that. Bets being a perfect example of that. Like I literally covered that today because now it's spiking because it's China related. So it's spiking with HOLO and all that other stuff. Even though it's not a scammy, sketchy liquidation play, it's never been one, but it's China related. or it's in China, so they're trying to make it related.
Oh, that's
But
so
like,
annoying.
perfect example. Just literally, they got a notice from the Nasdaq that they're going to be delisted, or they have a notice to be delisted because they announced two insanely toxic offerings in the last like 2 or 3 months that just was like unethical. Like the Nasdaq was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like you're just going to crush your stock to zero. And again, I got short because I knew looking at the offerings, they're going to crush their stock to practically zero. Didn't make it to zero, made it to about $2, but you get my point. So that's kind of the dynamic of why I'm a short seller in this space. Like I wouldn't be a short seller if I was trading the Magnificent Seven, or the top 10 stocks in the whole entire world. Like I probably would be long biased because generally that's what they're going to do more times than not. So
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, the chicken or the egg type of thing, because I think about why I'm primarily long biased, and well, it has nothing to do with win percentage. It just has to do with ease of making money and the way
right,
you see things. And it's kind of hard until you've done everything in the market. Like that's why there's that experimental period of like 3 months or whatever, where you kind of see what sticks. You try out a bunch of patterns, um, and you generally should find one that makes sense to you. And for me, it was just longing stuff. And I don't know if it's just because I share the same bias that you do. Like you have to kind of have that bias. I have like that cynical type of what these companies are willing to do, like how much dilution they have, like what they're like willing to take their stock price to, and how bad they'll let it get. Uh, but there is opportunity long too, and it's whatever you find easier. And I think that because I don't have as good of a win percentage as Kyle does shorting, longing, but I make my edge longing because I can make 10 to 1 when I'm right. And it's just like you kind of have to just do whatever works for you. There's no right answer because you could trade everything Kyle trades and have a worse win percentage. And maybe it wouldn't be because of the high win percentage anymore. So everyone's different.
right. Let's do the last couple questions here before I close it out. What Mint says, would it have been okay to short holo today, or is it best to avoid them? What's the best rule for that? I mean, yeah, I shorted this morning, but once I immediately knew there were too many red flags for me, I obviously cut. Oh, like when I cut my risk level, but then I never actually reshorted because I said there's too many red flags. I don't want to touch this. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving it a shot within the confines that you have a trade plan, you're following that trade plan, you have a strategy, you're following that trade strategy, and you're not just going against all that and adding, and before you know, you blow up because you just don't have any risk management. In that case, no, don't short stocks like Holo. But again, that's only I've seen it too many times where there's traders who have that mentality or have that kind of that lack of risk management, and it's only a matter of time. If it's not Holo, if it's not some Chinese scam that tends to have some of the biggest squeezers, it's going to be something like Kodak that went from what was like 5 to 60, something crazy. It was just it was a normal runner, right? Or it was or what was it, a BPTH? Right?
Yep.
None of these were Chinese liquid scams that are being manipulated. They were just insane squeezers. And so, you know, I'm in the boat that you can short sell almost anything, but what is your risk management? How does that play a role, and when does that come into play? Because if it doesn't, you probably shouldn't be shorting anything, frankly.
For me, I mean, the way you worded that, is it okay to short Holo? Take Holo out of it. What are you allowed to short? What is your strategy? What patterns do you allow yourself to trade? I told Kyle today, he was probably a little angry at me because I wasn't buying all the sympathies. At the stage I'm at right now in my preschool little penitentiary, in my prison sentence I have right now for the last month, I'm not allowed to take on privilege plays. I can only trade certain setups right now until I prove to myself I have the discipline to continue to size up, to build myself some cushion, to feel good about my trading, and then to be able to do more things that privileged people get. So what matters? It's not does Kyle say it's okay to short it or not? It's what do you say you're allowed to do for you based off what you're trying to do with your own trading, for what patterns you have seen that you have an edge on. And that was, I said at the middle of the day today, I put it in the chat. I said, this is your friendly reminder that 99% of you right now do not have an edge on Holo, long or short. This is a reminder to you to realize that. Like, unless you told me this morning you're someone that buys stocks that are up 500%, or I short stocks at 500% with a 500K float and are Chinese scams. If you told me that before, I'll say, you know what, you're allowed to do it. But if you didn't, you're just gambling. And And so it really comes down to that. What are your rules for yourself?
Yep. Arturo, go watch. So go to our YouTube channel and go to playlists and watch and click on the Good Morning Nasdaq playlist. Watch this morning's live trading session. I go over and talk about the red flags as to why I'm not going to reshort Holo that day. Last
It's right
question here.
Hoth, and it's confusing me.
Oh yeah, he's in Hoth, but I read Holo in my head. So last question here from Ferrani. It's actually a good question. I've gone over this topic before, but has anyone ever confronted you in real life saying that trading is an unethical way of making money and that we don't contribute to society? Because I've been told that. I have not had anyone in real life tell me that, frankly, because they're incorrect. In my honest opinion, I get where people get that from because yeah, it's not a traditional way to provide any value to society. But when someone says that to you, Franny, you can easily just say, okay, well, who pays for the broker's jobs? Like if there was no one trading, what job would brokers have? So I've let's put it this way: if you have a high net worth broker, Centerpoint, Cobra, Success Trader, Guardian, whoever that's ever existed, you know just how much commissions you've paid, and I have paid many people's salaries with the commissions I've paid. So I don't feel that at all that I have not provided any value to society.
I don't know what truly is unethical. I can think of so many jobs that people work so hard to climb the corporate ladder that are truly unethical. But this is just like, I think it's more of, you know, you're just doing what's best for you. And I could care less what anyone else thinks. All I care about is, God, my family, and trying to be comfortable and living a life that I feel good about. So I would never entertain that conversation because it's such a holier than thou type of conversation to begin with. But I never even thought about it the way Kyle said it. Um, but it's just like it's not even worth having that conversation. Everyone, you go into what you love and you do like, what do basketball players offer to the world besides entertainment so you can sports bet on it and ruin your life? Like, I, I don't understand. But unless you are literally working for a nonprofit to save lives, what is like a truly ethical business? Like where someone's not getting screwed, someone's not losing money, someone's not getting burnt, some small business isn't going out of business so the corporation can take over.
Right. Someone's
Like,
not competing against somebody else and putting someone else out of
I
business.
can't.
Yeah.
I can't even entertain that conversation. Like, what's sad is, yeah, someone said the manipulators are unethical. That's the true one. When you're literally trying to take money from sad people.
Yeah.
We don't know whose money we're taking. Okay, it is a zero-sum game. At the end of the day, though.
So yeah, that was actually a great answer there. We got different perspectives there, but both true. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. This was a lovely little episode. Good topics. I like how we switched that. We went from China plays to running, and then to questions. That was a great one. But anyways, guys, as always, $7 7-day free or not free, $7 7-day trial. If you haven't joined 4Leaf and checked it out, that's what it's there for. You get a little taste for practically nothing or a one Starbucks coffee. And as
Get in the
always,
room. If you're here every single week, you're watching Wine Wednesday, you're watching Good Morning Nasdaq, give it a try. We're not telling you have to sign up. Pay the $7. Get in the room. See what it's about. Come join a few webinars live because you'll have access for 7 days. I have one tomorrow. I'm guessing it's by myself, which means I'm going to need your guys' help to ask some questions. Then you'll have a live trading webinar on Friday with Huddy and Kyle. We post our watch list every night. That's what I'm going to go do right now. We have all of our archive webinars. We post video lessons, so much more in depth. You guys want to know more about my life? You can see all my video lessons. I give away my heart and soul for like 15 to 20 minutes at a time, multiple times a week. Get involved, get in there. And then if you really want to come meet us and see what it's all about, we got a boot camp March 1st through the 5th or 2nd through the 4th, first weekend in March. Tickets are available on the site. We're running out of time. It's a great opportunity. I mean, my flight was super cheap. These are the cheapest tickets we've ever sold. We're going to New York City. Get yourself a slice of that za, like an old Sbarro pizza.
Sbarro.
But really, take control of your education. If Holo sparked you up, got you excited, motivated you, it's a great time to get involved. Come join the community, see what we're all about, which is a couple of guys having a good time, trying to grow something real big and help as many people as we can. So that's my spiel. Tomorrow, Jack Schwartz will be on Good Morning Nasdaq.
Oh, amazing! I might have to tune in just to see it happen, see his beautiful face. But anyways, guys, that was a great closeout, Dom. Thank you, and we will see you all tomorrow morning. Peace, everybody.
Sounds good. Have a wonderful Christmas.